Okay, so good morning everyone. Today we will continue on the AP module. So just to recap, we have done the manual payments. We have also covered how we are going to create a debit memo prepayments and how we match debit memo to the invoices. Today we are going to start something called as first we will do some multi-currency payment. Then we will also discuss on the if time permits, we'll start with the PPR payment process request. So first let's start with multi-currency payment. Let me create one more quickly the invoice. But I think we already have the invoice. Let me check it out. Okay, so let me quickly create one of the invoice. Let's see here. Okay. So it is 83 point so and so. So that's fine. Same. Yes, I'm going to validate. Yeah, so when we are going to make a payment, there is no hard and fast rule that we need to have the accounting done. That can be done later on as well. But in case if you are going to make the payment accounting, then it is mandatory that we also have the accounting done for this invoice. Because always, as I refer, the payment accounting will always refer the invoice accounting to reverse the supplier account. Because when the supplier credited is created in the payment, the supplier is debited. So it tries to reverse that. Yes, so the accounting. So based on the amount, this is the debit versus 166,243 based on the exchange rate. Okay, so we'll try to create it in post lecture. Okay, so now this is done. So let's save and close. So now let's go back to the payment. We are going to create a payment. So here we are going to select the business unit. So here we are going to select any one of the account. So let's say here I'm going to have the payment currency as USD. So here click on advance. So instead of having the corporate, I will select user base. So here let's say I'm going to give there the exchange rate in the invoice is 83. So assume that we had when we made a invoice, the exchange rate was 83, and when we make a payment or when we are making a payment, the exchange rate has been reduced from 83 to 80. So here we can account and post to ledger. So here we are going to select the invoice. So we have, for example, this one, which we just created. We can use both. Let me just this one, like, okay. And you could see that there is a discount of 40. The reason is because the payment term is 2 by 10 by 30. So for that reason. So now I'm going to save it. Yes. So this is the payment number 2. So let's query the payment. Manage payments. Payment date is today. Search. So this is the one. Actions. View accounting. Okay. So now for the reason why I wanted to show this one is you could see here, for example, there is the liability, which is 2, and cash clearing, and we have the gain. So let me just have this T accounts. So if you see here, for example, this is the cash clearing where we have this amount 1960 because the 40 is the discount. So actually we are making a payment of 1960 into the 80 is the exchange rate. So which comes to this one. And you could see this is the supplier 166 243. Now you could see here the realized gain. So this is what I wanted to show you. So this is nothing but a sort of a realization. Realization means when we created the invoice was with 83 exchange rate, but when we are making a payment, it is $80. So for USD, it doesn't make any difference because we created the invoice in $2,000 and we are making a payment in $2,000. But for the INR, because the exchange rate has been reduced, so it shows as a realized gain. So this is very important too. understand. So we have a gain of 6243, and discount is whatever it is relevant to this $40, which comes to this much amount. And this realized gain account, if you recall or remember, when we have done the setup in the invoice common and procurement options, there we have given the realized gain and loss. If assumed that the invoice was in $83 and payment in 86, so we would have got here realized loss of 6243. So this is one concept of revaluation, we call it as. Revaluation means where either the currency fluctuates and we get a difference. So either it can be realized gain or loss account. So this is the overall. If we transfer this to GL as well, this is already done. Transfer to GL is done because it is final mode. So let's. Okay. Meanwhile, any questions here? Any questions, please? Okay. So now let's just go back quickly to GL journals. Manage journals. So we have this, for example. So this is the invoice we just posted. Okay. I wanted to show you the payment. This is the payment. This is the payment which we have made of 2000. Sorry. So you could see here the realized gain, and this is the discount taken, and this is the realized gain or loss, because the reason is the system has to tally the debit versus credit. So for that reason, no doubt the payment is of $2,000, but at the same time, we do have in terms of the exchange rate fluctuation. So for this reason, superb. So this I wanted to show you intentionally to go ahead and create one of the invoice in such scenario. So now I will go ahead and discuss something on the PPR, payment process request. So what is the concept of PPR? Let's first discuss on that. Then we will. Payment process request is one of the majorly used payments because it has many advantages, and this is the only one which is maximum use. The reason is, if you see the normal manual payments where you can have one supplier, multiple invoices, but here you can have multiple suppliers and multiple payments. This is the one, and this is the only one where we can have the integration with bank for post to post payment. These days, maximum payments happens through host to host. Host to host is something where, let's say, We created the payment process file and we place it in a particular folder. We first initiate a negotiation or a contract with the bank, and we have a testing with the bank. So this file is kept in a particular folder, and banks accordingly as per the schedule will pick this file and it will process it. So there is a format for this one to have that process. I will share that format as well on the G drive. You can look into it. So then the system will pick this file and it will go ahead and process it. So this is something called as host to host payment. So these are few of the major advantages of having the payment process request. I do have one of the PPT. I will also copy this later on after this session. Please go through it. So let me just discuss what is the thing here. So this is one of the payment process request. How exactly we do that? So the first thing is we start with the template, then we submit the payment process request. So based on that, system is going to process and it start with document validation. Then it has a payment validation. It goes for approval initiated, that is done internally. Then once the payment is approved, payment file is built, then system is going to create a payment file which is going to be printed. Then payment file processing happens, submitted for process for printing, then payment file confirmed. So this we have to follow the same order as it is being mentioned, and these are the different stages as well when we do the payment process request. So there are screenshots of this as well relevant. You can review it. So let's start defining this in the system. So now we are going to start with the payment process request. The first thing is to create a template. So we click on manage payment process request template. So we are going to create it, the template. So I'm going to give the name, let's say AM, AMZ, AMZ PPR. So here type daily loans expense reports EFT. EFT is referring to electronic fund transfer. Expense reports, as I mentioned, we do have one of the Fusion expense module. So in case if there are any employees expenses that can be run loans, it is nothing but in terms of any loans are there within the organization. Daily is something where normally it is being run to make any payroll or any other payments. It's optional, like if you want to give for your recognition only, you can have it. Inactive date is this. We will not be deleting it, so we can have the inactive date for this. Transaction calendar, as of now, you can ignore it. I will discuss on this again later. So here selection criteria. So these are different criteria which we can have. Pay through days. Zero means immediately it will be processed. Payment priority from 1 to 99. If you recall, all our invoices are with payment priority 99. So we can have this date basis, whether it is due date or pay date. Due date, normally we take it based on the payment terms. Let's say, for example, I have 10 invoices and Six invoices due date is falling today, and the four will be falling later on. So system will pick accordingly to the due date. So select early payment invoices. If there are any, like discounted only, we can select that as well. So here, if you recall, pay group is nothing but we can segregate or we can collate the invoices into a group. Currencies, if you want, we can make it for USD only or any other currencies or all. Business unit, so we can segregate here whether I want to have it for one particular business unit under my legal entity or multiple. So here legal entities, I want to be specific. Why? Because if I run for all means, maybe I might be running for all the fusion applications. So I want to be specific here. So if I select legal entity as Amazon, obviously, whatever the business unit is falling under this, it will cover. So here I'm going to select my business unit. So let me search. Sorry, so this is my legal entity, which I'm going to be specific. Sources is in case, let's assume that we are going to import the invoices from different sources. You can select that as well. So here, supplier type, in case if you want to have it, like assume that I'm going to have the supplier as different domestic, international, all those things. Invoice conversion rate type, it's not mandatory. Supplier or party, in case if I want to run only for one particular supplier, we can do that as well. So this is the selection criteria. Now payment run processing options, payment date.
Does
Yes, please.
question, sir. What does that payment priority 1 to 99 indicates?
Okay, so payment priority, let's say for example, if you recall, whenever we are going to make any invoices, right? So there is something called as priority. So if I mark some invoices with priority as one, so we can select only those priorities 1 to 1. Or if I say 1299 means it will cover all the invoices irrespective of any priority. That's what it means to mention. Okay? Because sometimes what happens is there are some urgent payments which has to be cleared. So in that scenario, in case where I want to have few invoices on top priority to be cleared, then I can give that invoice as a one. So whenever we are going to make any payments, all those invoices which are with payment priority as one will be cleared first. So that is what it means. So payment and processing options here. So payment date. So we are going to calculate base. So we are going to have the request date. Request date is nothing but today's date. So disbursement bank account, which bank we are going to have it. In case if you are going to have multiple bank accounts, then we no need to mention here particularly. Otherwise, we can be specific about it as well. So let's say, for example, I want to have it of Citibank, so I can process it, or I can use this AMZ operations. I can use this one also. Otherwise, we will get the option to select later on at later stage as well which bank we need to have it. But this is mandatory later on as well. So I will show you how to do that as because the reason why it is being mentioned here is some organizations are very clear from which bank the payment has to go through it. So they have some main banks. So for that reason, it is mentioned here. Or sometimes till we run, we don't know which bank we need to select. Maybe the funds challenges are there. So during the runtime also, we can select the bank, disbursement bank. So payment conversion rate type is corporate. In case if I want to select user, then we have to do use that. So apply credits. For this, we can just ignore it. Revise proposed payment. So review proposed payment. So whenever this file is being processed, the system will give us enough opportunity to review that. So for that reason, we have it. Create files, payment files immediately in case if we mark this one. So there will be one step of creation of the files that can be ignored. But let's keep it unchecked so that I will show you how to create that answer. So in case of failure, what should be done? Reject only documents with errors. Assume that I have 10 invoices. Out of that, if 8 are true and 2 have errors, only 2 invoices will be rejected. So here we have the options reject all documents in request or reject only documents with error or stop process for review. So normally this is the best option. Reject only those which are with errors. At any point of time, we can change this template. There is no hard and fast rule for this. So reject only payments with errors. So this is for document review. This is for the payments. So approvals are not applicable. So I'm just ignoring it. So I'm going to save. So this is a template which can be used. So here you have, for example, we can schedule the request because most of the time in the real world as well, this is scheduled so that there are no human intervention on the payment side. But some organizations, they prefer to run it as well. Any organization. So this is the template which we have created. So now manage payment process request. So once we have created the template, now we are going to submit it. So we can search by the name. Let's say, for example, either I can search based on status or I can search based on different stages. So these are the different stages which will be relevant for it. So let me just, so in case, let's say, for example, we have just submitted. So based on the date as well, we can have that review as well. So let me just creation date. So now let's first, for example, so we are going to, so here we are going to create the template. So in case once the template or the payment request is submitted, we can always query that. So now we are going to take it here, submit payment process. If I click on this, so here I can give the name of it. Let's say demo 14 October. The name I can give it for my reference, and the template what I created, I can use this one. So you could see the template the moment I click on this template. So in this one, we have given the specific as Amazon India legal entity. So this is the one for which we are going to run. In case if I want to change any of these things here, we can always do that as well. Okay. So now I'm going to click on submit. So now once this is submitted, normally we used to go and check in the scheduled processes, but that is not required. We can just query over here. So you could see here something, payment process request. So requiring our attention, it will be shown here, recently completed. And if there are any terminated, that will be shown here in this tab as well. So we just need to refresh. It will take a little bit of time. So it will be shown here. So meanwhile, if we want to just go and check in the background as well, schedule processes. So you could see that it is still running. Okay, so now let's go back to our payments window. So you could see here, for example, this is the one which we just created, Amazon demo 14th October. So you could see currently this is in the stage of document validation. So let me just show you on the screen. So as per the PPT, we have initiate and manage payment template we created, we submitted. Now this is in the stage of document validation. So now let's go back to the system. So here you could see, for example, there is something called as, this is the stage, status and action. So how many has been selected? There are 6 invoices which has been selected. So action means unless and until we don't click over here and proceed further, the system will not move this to next stage. So I click on this. Okay. So now you could see that there are 5 documents which are with, means there are 5 invoices which are with this currency and there is one USD for the processing. So now let's say for example, actions at any point of time, let's assume that we want to terminate this payment process, we can always do that. Till before we make a payment, we can always terminate this process. The termination can be for many reasons. Maybe we don't have enough funds, so we want to stop the payment process as of now, maybe later on, or we want to include more invoices as well. We can do this to terminate, or we want to freshly submit, we can do that as well. So you could see here, either if I terminate this, again I have to go back and start from the submit, and I can, if I want to do it later, I can just save it. And if I want to resume this process, I can always click on resume payment process. So let me click over here again. So for example, these are our, you could see if I click on the template, it will show exactly the details of it. So it is showing the pending action to complete. So now I'm going to click on resume payment process. So We can also give here the payment process profile. So let's say, for example, I want to give the disbursement bank. So through which bank I want to make a payment for this. So let's say I'm going to select this, and it is not mandatory that I may go ahead with the same bank for all these payments. Maybe I select Citibank for this, and I will be selecting HSBC for this. I can do that as well. It's up to the business which bank they want to select. So based on that, they will be having. So let's say, let- so now I'm going to first save this. Click on resume payment. So meanwhile, any questions here, please? So click on resume payment process. So we just have to refresh over here. In case if you want to go back and look in the background, you can do that as. Now you could see this is into the payment validation stage. So now we are done with stage documentation. Now it is into the, after that, the stage documentation, the immediate one is the payment validation. So this is already mentioned in the PPT as well. You can just go through that. So here you could see 6 invoices selected. So I click over here. Now you could see here the payments. One is with 1000 USD, the other is 92,000, which is pending process payment review. So what is the purpose of this one is, let's assume that for some reasons I don't want to make a payment for just 30,000. So in that scenario, if we want to remove this, we can do that as well. Or I don't want to process this for some reasons. Let's say, so I can select this and click over here. So what happens is, as of now, I don't want to process this USD. Maybe some funds issue or some business reason, or maybe we have some issue with the supplier, or it can be n number of reasons. So for that reason, I want to remove this. Or within this, I can select any one of this to be removed. So let's say, for example, this one I want to remove. So I click on this. Some documents you remove from the request are returned to the source. Means as we are going to remove this one, so it will be back to the original. Means this will not be available for further processing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on yes. So now what happens is this 2000 invoice is eliminated. Means it will not be part of this process. So you could see only these are available. This one, I want to remove it. Click on this. So now I'm just keeping it 30 plus, you could see here 6090 plus 15. This much amount. So now I save it. At this point as well, I can terminate it. So system gives option at every stage. If I terminate this again, it will start from the beginning, or I can continue on this with resume payment process. I click on this. So now we move to the next stage. So we are done with the stage document payment validation. Now the system will go ahead and have the payment file. Wait, let's do this. So now you could see payment file build, waiting for payment file processing. You could see here 4 has been selected and 2 has been rejected, approver rejected. So this is an internal approver. So it's nothing but we only rejected if you remove, if you have seen that, right? So we ourselves are approver. So normally the person who is going to run this himself is the approver. So for that reason it is showing as approver reject. So these two are rejected and removed. Now there is something called as payment file build. So we have to run that payment file build. So there is something called as here create electronic payment file. So we click on this. So we are going to select the bank which is relevant. So we are going to have this bank. So in case if I have multiple business units, I can select that, or I have the legal entity. Let's say I'm going to select the Amazon legal entity. So we can restrict here from which payment process profile and all those things. Payment process request, which one is the one to be selected, like this one, for example, and transmit now, yes. So I just click on submit. So we go back to payments. We just have to wait for some process. So we can also check in the scheduled processes. So this is now succeeded. So let's go back, payables, payments. We just have to wait for some time, waiting for payment process. Sometimes it takes time to get it changed. So we just have to wait for. So meanwhile, let me just share with you on the PPT as well. So what is the process which we have? So we have done with stage validation. Payment validation is done. So these are done now. Payment approve initiated. It is already done. If you recall, there are two rejected and payment file built. So there are two things here. One is the create payment file. One is electronic base, or we can also have the printed payment file. So electronic base will be mostly in terms where we are going to have the wire to wire transfers or host to host payments. So at that times, this printed payment file will be run, which is electronic. And in case, let's say, for example, we are not going to have the electronic, but a sort of checks being issued similar to that, we can run this printed payment file request as well. So after that, payment file processing will happen. It will be submitted for printing. So create payment file. So let's go back and review once. So let me take it over here. So we have something called as create printed payment files. It's the same process, no changes. So I just select this. So if in case we want to select the legal entity, so here payment document, so which document we are going to have it. So city pay doc, print now. Let's make it as no. So either in case if you are doing to electronic, we can submit electronic base, or in case if you are going to have the checks, we can use this one as well. Tools, scheduled processes. The files are being done now. It's a little bit of time. It's done now. Payables, payments. So you could see here, waiting for payments file processing is done, and system has payment file processing formatted and ready for print. So again, there is an action to be done, and this is the file payment process request which is generated. So we click on this action. So you could see here payment document, paper stock type, blank, and total documents need for printing is 1. So in case, let's assume that we have the checks. If you recall, when we defined the pay bank account, there we have mentioned the payment document. There we have mentioned the first document number and the bank checks were there, checkbook. So in case some organizations, they want to print the checks, they can have a schedule. I mean to say there will be a development of the checks to be printed that can be done. But these days, hardly no one is printing the checks. They're directly doing the wire transfers. In case we want to terminate again, we can always do this. Print is there, but let me just cancel it again and I will show it here. So this is one of the file which is generated. So you could see here payment file so and so number. So payments confirm, we haven't confirmed yet, so it is showing as no. So you could see here, for example, reporting, and all those details will be here, like how many, for which all invoices the payments will go through. So here we have this payment number 3, and this is the payment details of, for example, all this, and documents payable and banking details. When we say documents payable, which all those invoices will be part of this payment will be referred over here. We cannot cancel or remove one of the invoices. The only alternate for this one is to terminate the process and start from the beginning. So here it will be shown to the business which are invoices it will be processed. If they are okay with it, here we can have actions, print payment documents. We can do it from here as well. Else we continue from here as well. So in case if you want to see the file, this is the file which is referred, and this file will be converted into .xml. There is one extension of the file. These days the bank accepts only the XML format. I will copy those exactly some of the host to host format, how exactly it looks in the G drive. You can refer it under AP module, and the action we click over here. It's the same thing. Here we are going to have it directly. So once this is done now, so it will process further. So now submitted for printing. We have the action over here. So you could see here it's printed means this is processed now, and this is the payment reference number and all those details will be here. And now we want to make it as record print status. So this will be the final one to confirm to go ahead with the bank. Still, if we want to terminate, we can do that, but we want to make it. So I click on record print status. So review your printing results. So this is the final now. After this, we cannot cancel it. Assume that, for example, if this file has to go to the bank or to the bank server, so this will be the final. In case if we want to cancel till this level, we can terminate it. After this, once it is submitted, only we have to call to the bank to stop the payment. So I click on submit. You could see don't confirm payments unless you are sure all payments are complete. Once payment is in payment file, we cannot stop it. So yes, go ahead. So now this is the final process or final stage of completion. Now there are no further process, so it is done now. So the payment is assumed that it is done or it is gone to bank. So you could see the file is printed. So all those recently completed will be available in this bucket. Now we just want to refer our payment. So I click on payments. I query that manage payments. Payment date, we made it today. Search. So you could see that, for example, is the one which we have made the payment. We haven't done the accounting. So the next point is to do the accounting for this one. If I want to refer this, I can always refer. And for some reasons, I want to initiate stop. We can do that as well. Maybe we had some discussion or we don't have funds for some reasons, we can immediately stop it, or we can cancel this as well at this stage. But this is within the system to cancel. If I want to post to ledger, we can directly do it. And the only difference, when we made through manual payment, it used to show as quick payment. This here you could see the type as PPR, payment process request. So this only the payments has been done. So it will show exactly all those details of it. So what is a PPR request? This is the one which we have created. Payment reference file 269191. All these details will be here. So now the rest is related to the accounting. So all these amounts still goes to the cash clearing because we are using the cash management over here. Any questions, please? So this is a complete PPR process. I would request everyone to do this because this will be very critical in the interviews as well. So we start with PPR template and we end up with create printed file where we are going to have the payment file confirm or print. So this is the PPR.